envious of you in this moment. You are ahead of the curve. And I've been excited to share this conversation with you this morning. So I'm glad that you chose to join me, and let's have some fun, all right? So I thought it would be valuable to introduce myself with a little bit more depth. This is the way I spend my time. So today we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, about making a ruckus, about how fueling positive change can lead you down a path toward career nirvana. I was thankful to see how much entrepreneurship is woven into the theme of this event. And so I'm trying not to be duplicative, and I want to leave some time at the end for Q&A. To give you a quick snapshot, this is a diversified career portfolio. In our connected era, my friends, you can do more than one thing. And so I got my computer science degree and thought about video game development. So went to California, looked at video game design, came back to Iowa and started building the internet back in 2004. And so one of the reasons why I mentioned that I'm envious is that entrepreneurship was not a conversation when I was your age. Startup wasn't a word. And so one thing I learned was by building something I was passionate about, it allowed me to wedge into these areas that I found so interesting. So my first entrepreneurial experience was actually a 3v3 soccer tournament. I'd played soccer all my life and thought that I could probably produce something that people would enjoy. I ended up selling that to the Waukee Soccer Club. It's still going on, like 20 years later. And so that's a neat thing, but we had to sell because we had built a social network back when MySpace was cool. And so I had used that interest in video games and a connection to building websites to build gathering of gamers way back in the day. So Jet Set Studio remains a small piece, and I now speak more on how entrepreneurship can connect you into the video game industry. But we hosted video game events all around North America. Guitar Hero was good to me. Like playing Guitar Hero at Times Square and Disney World with BlackBerry, remember that company? So it's one of these, I think, lessons is how entrepreneurship can unlock things that you're already passionate about to the point where it feels a lot less like work and a lot more like play. So over the years, built Flightbright is a electronic beer flight paddle. So it has a touch screen on the handle that highlights each of the items that you serve, and the technology is able to transcend beer into cheese and wine and other things that you get at restaurants. So Flightbright has been a lot of good, tasty customer discovery. Open, I learned there was a gap between realtors and home builders scheduling open houses. So what do? We build an open house scheduler. Open is an interesting project. 1 Million Cups over here on the left is how I spend most of my heartfelt time. This is a weekly gathering every Wednesday morning. This is something that you want to write in your notes because 1 Million Cups is a place that you can find a lot of entrepreneurs no matter where you're at in Iowa. We have 5 or 6 different 1 Million Cups meeting every Wednesday morning, free coffee, and the format is Entrepreneur Presents what they're building so that the audience, the community, can provide feedback and further connect and accelerate those entrepreneurs. Over the last 10 years, I've been drinking coffee every Wednesday. And so I've now been inside the Kauffman Foundation helping to support about 45 1 Million Cups communities across the 12 states of the Midwest and temporarily down in Texas as well. Techstars is like the other side, so it's connection and support of entrepreneurs, but it's through more of a venture capital where we invest in 10 companies, overload them in resources, go through a program, and kind of have that demo day moment that we just experienced here in Des Moines a couple of weeks ago. So Techstars is a neat opportunity. And then last year, I decided it was time to synthesize my experience, but more so the learnings from folks like you. I've been a part of a lot of entrepreneurial experiences, and being able to help connect those dots, support those individuals, and watch how they build their own company has taught me so much about entrepreneurship in the connected era. So you don't need this book. It's actually back here. And I've got 25 for the first people that walk out and grab one. So no rushing, but those are all for this group to take I'm going to end up at the Viterbo booth downstairs in the main room, signing and personalizing those after the second session here today. So excited about that, and a little quick intro to here, and then we'll really dive into some more of the guts of our conversation. This is the table of contents, thinking about some of the common ways entrepreneurship is experienced. We're going to think about a couple of these specific areas throughout our time today, but that's a neat gift. Michael, thank you again for the opportunity to give those as gifts to this audience today. All right, so I've never done this in a public talk before, but I think it's important. I noticed the schedule, and as I mentioned, how much entrepreneurship is a part of this environment. And so, I'll be honest, I thought I was kind of the only entrepreneurship flavored conversation. So I needed to change this talk up a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a little space for this group to come together. It's a very simple exercise. I think there's an opportunity for us to consider what we've heard today and think about the way that we want to spend this limited time called life. And so, if you don't mind, let's share a couple of breaths together. This is not cheesy, my friends. This is mental fitness. And in entrepreneurship, it's a lonely roller coaster. And so filling your mind, your body with healthy activities is something that I've learned that's very valuable, along with the work, along with those you seek to serve and the connection you inspire. So what I'll do is I'll close my eyes. You're welcome to do the same. Just 15, 30 seconds here. So take a huge breath in and kind of bring your spine up. Create a little awareness as you breathe in, nice and big. Welcome to yoga. As you breathe out, let some of the tension release. This is an intense environment. So let yourself sink into the moment a little bit. And think specifically about maybe something that's resonated with what you've been hearing today, people you've met, things you plan to do. And take a couple more breaths just to let that really sink in. Welcome. We are now one. As you open your eyes, stretch it out a little bit, write down something, think about something, and let it really hit home. I'm curious if anyone would like to share something that they've heard over the last 24 hours that has really caught their attention, something that they really want to move on today or this week. And no requirements, but if you're interested in sharing, now's the time. Save your money. Mindset over skill set. Don't need a fire once. Oh, redefine. I was thinking flame, fire. Say it one more time. Need a fire once. Needify. That's why I wasn't here. I haven't heard that word before. Needify. All right, well, we now have a new vocabulary. Way to go. Good job. Don't need a fire once. Any others before we move on? Very cool. Thanks for sharing, you three. All right, let's move. So, in order to dive right in, let's squash some myths and let's build into some realities. I have been building in this entrepreneurial lifestyle for, 20 years. And I've noticed a lot of things, and these are a couple of things I wanted to translate with this group today. Because we're mostly students in the room, I'm curious, any advisors or non-students? All right. Welcome. All right. So, while the framework, the safe space, an environment to test things out is highly valuable, education is an opportunity for you to learn who you are. But it's entrepreneur, not a class. This is not something you can just learn and then have success with. Entrepreneurship is learned best through action. You can build your understandings along the way, and that provides a lot of tactical value. But to truly understand what this is, it requires that step of initiative, which is really, really hard to find. So as students, I promise, if you show up, you're ahead. If you get curious in an environment, ask questions, showcase your curiosity, people are going to want to not only connect with you, but support whatever you care about. And so that type of initiative is something that I think you can lean on. I think about the 7 capitals. One of the myths is that you have to have a bunch of money. Financial capital is mandatory. Look, money speeds things up, but you can choose time or money, and there are other types of capital that you can use what you have to attract more of what you want. So maybe it's human capital, right? These 5 humans are connected, they care about each other, there's some network capital, there's some cultural capital. You can use those types of capitals to attract more of what you want, and sometimes it can be financial capital, but it's not required to start. Another thing is you don't need a team. Look, I'm guessing you have a phone. I'm guessing that you have a laptop. If you don't, your school can connect you with those types of resources, because that is a tool that plugs you into our connected era. You are able to build alone, but there's, of course, amplified value for if you can find others to build together. As you think about team development, you don't want to clone yourself. So your best buddy, your family member, someone who does exactly the same things as you, might be fun to build with, but probably won't compound the value of your team as much as someone who is a little outside of your skill set. So being realistic with what you do, what you can do, what you're interested in, and how you want to spend your time will help you understand the gaps that you can fill with other members of a team in those earlier days, because it's always easier to find co-founders before your passion gets too far away. It's harder for others to catch up. It's not impossible, but it does get a little more challenging to find co-founders the longer you build as a lone wolf. And so I'm here to tell you you can do it alone, but there's also opportunities as you expand the team. This is a slide deck that is almost against how I suggest people do slide decks. I always like to say one word, no sentences. And I knew that I was adding a little too much text to this deck, but I want to be able to provide this to you afterwards and continue to fuel the narrative. So this is all sorts of good stuff. We don't have time to talk about each one of them. I'm trying to, only adults start businesses, that's a myth. You can start right now. I think if you take one thing away from this entire event, this talk, this moment, is that you can build now and no permission is required. You don't have to ask. You can start it right now, get a LinkedIn profile set up today, fire up the idea, fail forward, and move to what is next. Failure is not forever. We either succeed or we learn. So don't be afraid to fail. That's part of this process. Let's see, community is key. Community is chapter 2 in the book because it is so important. It activates things that you can't do alone. And in the connected era, when you plug into community and build trust through generosity, you can do so much more with less. Entrepreneurship is a lifestyle. Feedback is data, that's a good one. So as you're building, some of the early work is customer discovery. Look, if your friend says it's a good idea, your parents like it, that doesn't count. People who are going to pay you are an important part of this equation. And finding those conversations from potential customers gives you a reality of how good this idea is. And does the market need it? It's called product market fit. And that's kind of the holy grail. You're trying to find a service, a product, an experience that a customer is willing to pay for. And customer discovery is the way that you can get that feedback. And the reason I say feedback is data is when you start going down this path, she's going to say one thing, he's going to say another, she's going to say another, he's going to say, feedback is data. So don't get lost on what someone suggests, especially at your age. but instead collect more data so that you can be better decision makers because you have more perspectives woven into your decision making. Persistence is the wild card. So I have seen entrepreneurs share their story every Wednesday for 10 years. I've told you this. I've been around students. I've been in Startup Weekend. I've been around entrepreneurs. And there are many times where you hear someone say an idea and you're like, maybe. But 6 months from now, a year later, they're still building. Persistence is a wild card, and there's like these dips of progress. And you can, winners quit all the time. They quit the right thing at the right time. But if you push through a dip, you've left others behind and have perhaps more opportunity for the success you seek through that valuable skill of persistence. All right, so this is hard, but it's so worth it. It's like a tweetable thought, right? It's like what you work 80 hours so that you don't have to work 40. This is entrepreneurship. So to finish our time together, I thought we could talk about a couple of topics. Real quick, pit stop. Any questions, thoughts? I know it's a day. All right, we'll keep moving. So we'll first talk about what creating art is all about, right? Art is very broad. We'll speak on that momentarily. How to tell the story of your art. How to be remarkable as you bring things together. Maybe you're kind of like, I don't have the ideas. I don't have anything I want to build right now. I'll share a tactic that will flex your mind in a way where you will become an idea machine. And then lastly, we'll take a look at that value of community and continuing to make a ruckus by supporting others. So I think it's important just to kind of rewind and think about what it means to create art. Art is not painting. Art is not only drawing. Art is almost everything that you do that is human, that creates connection. Art can be writing. Yes, it can be painting, but it can be building a business. It can be building a nonprofit that really supports folks in need. It oftentimes does not have a guidebook. So it's not the same for you as it is for the person sitting next to you. This means you're often flying blind. There are not instructions on how you specifically need to build. But there is a community around you. There's an opportunity to create this art, and it's art when it ships and hits the market. So a good example is writing. I have learned that reading helps us understand the world. Writing helps us understand ourselves. Now, personal journaling, private writing is valuable. It allows you some space to enjoy that reflection. But there's another layer of value that awaits when you ship your art and it creates a connection. One of the things Seth Godin talks about in the Icarus Deception is that it might not be art until it ships. He suggests that we write every day. I write every week, and I promise it's been a very healthy addition to my practice, but it is challenging. However, it is worth it. This book is the #1 suggested book that I share with students. So if there's one book that you decide to spend a little money on, I suggest the Icarus Deception. This will inspire you to, once again, not need permission, to create your art, to make a ruckus, to fuel positive change. And as you read the book, you'll hear my vocabulary through the words of Seth Godin. He's my favorite writer and has taught me so much over the years. One of the things he also talks about is generosity, and how that generosity builds trust. And now, over time, we'll look at it in the community portion, it allows you to connect dots and do what you want to do a lot easier. As you create the art, I thought about, this was kind of like that marketing slide, right? I think marketing is almost everything. But more importantly, how you connect your art to the market, how do you tell your story of what you are building, what your team truly cares about, the mission that matters. So it's important to think about ways of telling your story, aligning your brand. I saw that there was a session called Aligning Your Personal Brand. I think that's highly valuable. Who here is on LinkedIn? Here you go, Michael. That's a mistake. There should be all the hands up. look, you're on TikTok, you might be on Instagram, you also should be adding LinkedIn. It's not too early to start adding that business flavored conversation to your pie chart of social media outlets. So LinkedIn is a great one that Michael would of course want you to be on as well. At the end, there are some QR codes. I've checked it in the back. It actually works if you zoom in your camera. But I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn to answer any questions about the platform. This is a way that you can connect with the folks here today, as well as fellow professionals in fields that you care about, building your network before you need it. So thinking a little bit more about telling stories, we talked about how feedback is data, being consistent. This is an interesting one. So who here has heard the suggestion that we are authentic? A couple of people. I think that's a trap. People don't want your authentic self. If you're feeling sick today or maybe not fully energized, is that something that you would want to bring to a customer?
No.
People probably are actually looking for consistency. The easiest way to be consistent is to be authentic. It doesn't require a show. And so I think there's value in consistency, which leads to some of the values of being authentic. The vulnerability invites an opportunity for others to resonate with the stories that you're talking about. I think about creating content and some of the skill sets that make you dangerous. It's in the marketing chapter, so you'll see it soon, but I think there are 6 big skills that you can all do yourself or learn a little to make you more powerful when it comes to building ideas into reality. I think writing is one of the easiest things that you can get better doing just by doing. Photography, we all are hammering our phones all the day. Got lots of photos, being able to create photos that tell a story. Video, of course, we are all mesmerized by video, but everyone can shoot video. Can you stitch it together? Can you do the video editing so that it tells a story and resonates with a community, with that tribe you so much care about? Some of the other things, graphic design brings it all together. Being able to stitch those types of mediums into something that resonates. Being able to stay creative. Not feeling like you have to sit on top of a mountain in order to be inspired, but instead doing the work and being inspired by that activity. And lastly is organization. Everyone here is like terabytes of data already. We've all seen the fun narrative around how much data the human society creates, every single second compared to the history. This is something that will happen as you create more content. So building frameworks for you to stay organized, for you to have proper backup process, making sure you don't lose the time that you spent into these realms is an important first step that does make it easier as your content creation really starts to collect. And as that content becomes aligned, it starts to be consistent, it starts to be diversified in the ways that people are interacting with you and your business. It's important to be remarkable. So this is a word that sounds kind of like exciting. It's an overused word, but it actually is not as hype-filled as it sounds. It simply means you are worth remarking about to others. So how do you make sure that you and your stories are remarkable? I think the alignment helps a lot. I think understanding your audience really helps so that you can deliver something that is meaningful in that moment. The curiosity, simply showing up. I think that's my number one thing for students is the value of simply showing up when you don't feel like you belong, but you do. I met a guy named Ani from Johnston High School. Showed up at 1 Million Cups alone. Showed up and just kind of wasn't sure what to say, wasn't sure what was going on, but had realized there was a gap in the storytelling around entrepreneurship in his school. He knew of the programs, he knew of the classes, he was excited about it, but his friends and family weren't delivering that nourishment for the innovative spirit. And so he showed up at 1 Million Cups, which is that weekly event that invites everyone to come together, and just started to listen, ask questions, showing initiative, even asking the organizing team if there were ways that he could help. That caught my attention. I wanted to support Ani as much as I could. seeing what he was interested in doing, connecting him to other folks so that he could learn from the perspective of others. I think success and failure leaves clues. And being around those who are in areas that you are interested in, even if it's as broad as building your own company, having a side hustle, or fueling positive change as an entrepreneur in an existing company, innovation is a safe bet. That will translate into more opportunities no matter what direction you decide to take. As you connect, staying humble, staying curious, look, there's like this balance between being confident but also being intellectually humble, right? You want to kind of have the excitement of what you know is true while keeping a lot of room open to think again and to invite folks to challenge your assumptions and almost like welcome wrong so that there's opportunities to be a little more relevant. When I think about ideation, I know it's a little bit weird in the timeline of this. Michael, how are we doing on time? Nice. So I'll fire through this stuff so we have some time for Q&A. Who here has a business idea? Excellent, excellent. So I want to hear about those afterwards. Find me upstairs. I want to help build those companies for you and connect dots to make this idea real. There was a lot of hands that weren't up, and that's completely okay. If you're interested in thinking about more ways of building a business and pairing it perhaps with something that you're passionate about, this is a very simple exercise, and all it requires is this. Maybe a pencil, not your phone. There's value in physically writing and having some room to draw a little bit, having it on you at all times. The exercise is actually 10 ideas per day, but I'll make it easier and a little more approachable. Grab one of these idea books and write 5 ideas into it every day. They will always be bad, medium, and good. But what it's doing, it's like going to the gym for your mind. It creates like an awareness of the world where you see a problem and you're like, wait a second. Those type of ideas will start to compound, and maybe something will emerge in that idea book that you would like to actually spend your time with. So now we're going down the path of building that idea into reality, recognizing that an early no is better than a long, wrong yes. So customer feedback as early as possible so you don't waste time. Exploring a couple of different options. I mean, the internet is a pretty powerful research tool. And allowing your ideas to start like almost bubbling. Oh man, I kept thinking about this. I kept thinking about this one idea that I shared during that day. Here's what will happen. You'll get excited. Your idea book will be loaded up for the first maybe 3 days. I'll give you 3 days because you'll be all energized after this event. Right? So you got 3-4 days coming together. You're excited, and then it's like, oh man, I forgot it at home. Okay, I'm gonna bring them all together and do all my idea writing at once. Okay? That gets you to that 4th, 5th day. Okay, oh no, I missed a day. Oh no, I'm gonna do double, I'll do 10. Kind of like the New Year's Eve resolutions of going to the gym, it's likely that this exercise will fade and the idea book will collect dust on the shelf. That's okay. You still exercise the idea machine. There's still ideas sitting in there waiting to be expanded upon, and you can always come back to it. So don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself some grace in this exercise, recognizing that even a couple of days of this activity, I believe you will start feeling it for yourself, and what will happen over time is you'll also start feeling it for others. You'll hear problems that people are having, and you'll connect a dot to someone else, and you'll start making introductions, you'll start providing resources or insight, and that idea machine will churn into a generosity factory. If anyone decides to go down that path, please let me know. I am here for you. Someone just asked me in the back, like, who are you with, right? It's kind of a common question in the networking environment, or what do you do? Come on, friends. We can be more creative in the ways that we break bread. We can talk to people a little more deeper besides just the weather. So jump into, what do you make? How do you spend your time? What would you do if you didn't get paid? Right? There are questions that you can introduce a conversation with that are much more interesting. And so someone asked me who I'm with, and I'm like, I'm with you. I'm retired, friends. I want to help you, and I'm here to commit. If you reach out to me, I will do all that I can to continue building, connecting, and accelerating your work. I've learned the value of this activity through community. This is something that I don't think I was taught in school, was the value of an engaged network. Look around, you've already got a really strong start here at an event like this. You have people who are showing initiative by showing up and wanting to connect with others. I would highly encourage you to take advantage of this, build a group that will transcend this time, and be able to support each other, but also challenge each other as you continue building. Go into the community of different entrepreneurial organizations, different activities within your community. Don't feel like because I'm a student, I can only participate in student activities. For educators, I know there's not many in here, but here's a message that you can translate to them. For those who care, they can blur the line between classroom and community. They can invite students to go into a community and participate. They can invite the community to come into the classroom and share stories, share learnings. It creates a reality along with helping to build within that community, both locally, around our state, which actually builds at the speed of trust in Iowa. Like I've seen a lot of entrepreneurship around the country. We're ahead of the curve, friends. You have people who want to help you for no reason. It's a very positive sum mindset within our economic development environment, which is like, if you win, we win. It's the opposite of zero sum or scarcity, where if you win, I can't win. That's economic development from the past. There's plenty to go around, and the community is a way that you can plug into this environment, learn, collaborate, give first, connect, do more with less by showing up and connecting into a community. Now, for the back couple of rows, this might be hard to see. This is an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Anyone heard of entrepreneurial ecosystem building? This is a professional career path, just like being a plumber, just like being an accountant, just like being an attorney. Entrepreneurial ecosystem building is a career path that is connection and support of entrepreneurs as economic development. So if you're in an entrepreneurship class, maybe there's a certificate, a program that you're having, talk to your advisors, talk to your teachers, invite them to learn a little bit more about what entrepreneurial ecosystem building is, because it allows you to get involved with entrepreneurship as, or maybe not as, an actual entrepreneur. So there are a lot of ways to plug into an entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is to describe the overall environment of different actors. You'll see this in my book within the community, but in the center, always focusing on entrepreneurs. If this initiative has some sort of ulterior motive, if the big sign is all they care about versus the entrepreneurs that are actually being served, if the entrepreneurs aren't actually plugging in, then it is self-serving and it won't last. These are some of the 7 capitals that we talked about, supporting small businesses and startups, easy ways of thinking of the value of both as 2 pillars of entrepreneurship. On the outside are these different actors, educational organizations, right? All of the different programming that you're a part of in school. Investors, we've talked about 1 million cups and community networking events, mentors, intrapreneurs, accelerators, the media, large companies, fellow founders. This is a lonely roller coaster, and finding peers that you can build with is part of the equation. This is an example of how to map an entrepreneurial ecosystem, but they're complex, and trying to control them is actually self-limiting. And so this is a fun way of thinking about other areas that you might explore within your environment without feeling like these are the only ones. So here's my personal invitation to 1 Million Cups. Every Wednesday morning, no RSVP, it's all free. There's one here in Des Moines, down at Gravitate. There's one in Ames every Wednesday morning, over in Cedar Falls, Waterloo, in Iowa City, there at Merge, and also in Cedar Rapids. There are communities that are growing over in the Quad Cities, as well as Council Bluffs and Sioux City, also some rural environments that we're excited to bring more folks together every Wednesday morning. So if you have questions about 1 Million Cups, this is something that I've seen to be very valuable within this lifestyle. All right, I'm going to close up with a term that came to me as I was driving home one night, and I felt like this sense of peace. My home life, my work life, and the community that I cared so much about was in like this perfect balance. Career nirvana was a term that I just felt is possible. You can get to it in a lot of different ways, but entrepreneurship may be the easiest path toward this concept. So I invite you to explore things you care about and release the idea of needing to wait to retire, instead not needing money to do what you care about. And this is an interesting state where you get to be creative, having fun, making a ruckus. Your parents are going to suggest find things that make money. You want to do something you care about. This is the balance. Find things that look like work to them, but feel like work. How do I mess that up? Feel like play to you. This will give you that persistence to continue building into these directions that you care about, fueled by all of these initiatives. I want to thank Michael for his generosity. He was the one that financially supported the books that some of you will take back. If you grab one and would like me to personalize it, I'll be downstairs. After the next session, I'm here again if you want to hear a repeat version. And I just want to create some space to say thanks again to Michael.
Oh,